Hello, my name is Xonevant. Today is Friday, January the 10th, and this is your Daily Dose Friday Fan Question. Today's question comes in from Jacob Scott, and he asks, do you think that the soundtrack placement and graphics of a game reflect on the replay value of the campaign, co-op, and multiplayer? Also, do you rate a game by the cover or the trailer? Very good question. Now, before I get into this particular question, let me go ahead and give a shout out to Ron Shrake. He actually gave me a question asking me about my top 5 games of 2014, but due to the fact that so many release dates are up in the air right now, not a lot's been confirmed. A lot of these games could get pushed back. I've decided to kind of table this question for a future episode on the Daily Dose, but thanks again for the question, Ron. I will be answering it in an upcoming show. Just give me some time to nail down some of these release dates. A link to Ron's channel will be in the description below though. Alright, so back to Jacob's question. So let's first talk about the soundtrack. Honestly, I think the soundtrack is one of the most important elements in any form of entertainment, whether it be movies or video games. Now, if you're specifically talking about the replayability of a game, I just don't think it carries as much weight, at least for a gamer like myself. Typically, when I play a game through for the second or third time, I normally turn the volume all the way down anyway, and I either listen to music or maybe watch a movie while I play, because typically on my second or third run, I'm usually just collecting items, in order to get 100% completion, or I'm just beating the game on the hardest difficulty, stuff like that. So the music and the sound effects are just not as important to me at that point, than they would be going through the game for the first time. Now, obviously, some games require, certain audio cues and stuff like that. So in those cases, I would obviously, keep the game's volume up and the sound effects up. And in that case, it would be, very important for the replayability of the game to have the soundtrack in place and to have the sound effects in place and stuff like that. But for the most part, I just play it on mute, typically my second playthrough. And like I said, either listen to music or movies while I play, just so I can get my 100% completion. And I don't really play a lot of games cooperatively, but my assumption would be that that would probably be about the same as playing on single player. If I were playing a game for the first time with somebody else who has never played the game, then obviously the music would be important. But if we've both played the game before and we're just going through it the second time and there's no audio cues or something that's needed, for the music to be there, then I would assume it would fall under the same guidelines as playing a game, by myself. I mean, you could play with it, but it's not going to be necessary. So now let's get into multiplayer. I don't really play a lot of multiplayer, but the multiplayer that I do play, I just don't think a soundtrack is that important. In most cases, it's kind of non-existent. You see what I mean? Most multiplayer games are first-person shooters, and I think the majority of how you interact with the game at that point is based on the sound effects and the other players on your team. So I think what you really need to enjoy multiplayer, over and over and over again, is just a really good sound effects library, you know what I mean? Because it seems like most of the multiplayer games out there are in the FPS genre, and you want to be able to hear those guns fire and bombs explode and stuff like that. That's just critical to the experience that you're going to have, and in my opinion, to the replay value of the game itself. Now for me, obviously the replay value of multiplayer is strictly based on the gameplay. If it doesn't have good gameplay, even if it has a really good soundtrack, really good sound effects, if the gameplay is horrible, then to me it's not worth replaying anyway. So the second part of your question there was about graphics. How much do they play into the replayability of a game for me? Not that much, to be honest with you. I mean, I come from the retro days of gaming when graphics were not that good anyway. They were good for the time that they were, when the games were coming out. They blew us away when I was a kid, but you get my point. When you look back on them, they don't really hold up that well. So I'm used to playing those kind of games, and now I'm used to playing like current gen games. So anything that's in between is typically fine for me. I could throw in, GoldenEye right now for the N64 and have a great time. And those graphics were not that good, but the gameplay of that game was so fun that at the end of the day, that's the only thing that I need to determine whether I'm going to replay that game or not. You see what I mean? Is the fun factor of the game and not so much the graphics. Now, the second part of your question was, do I rate a game by the cover or the trailer? And the answer to that is absolutely no. There's a lot of things I've learned over the years about this industry, about movies, just about entertainment in general. And a publisher's job is to sell us a game or a movie, right? To sell us an idea of a movie before we've actually played it or watched. That's the purpose of a trailer. You see what I mean? And it's the purpose of cover art. It's the purpose of, leaking images on the internet, and that sort of thing. It's to sell us the dream. They want us to buy their game or, buy into the fact that their movie's going to be good before we've actually played it or watched it. You see what I mean? So that's the point of the imaging and the trailers coming out, is just to kind of whet our appetites, get us hyped up about the game. But time and time again, I've bought into the hype, and then I play the game and I look back on it and I go, the trailer and the imaging that was released does not reflect what I just played. You see what I mean? And I've done that with movies too. Like sometimes the trailer of a movie is better than the movie. You know what I mean? So you can tell that they spend a lot of time focusing on the trailer and that kind of stuff. And that's good. I mean, that, like I said, that is what gets us to want to buy these games. But for me, I don't ever rate a game based on the trailer or the imaging that's released prior to the game coming out. So for the most part, honestly, I try to stay away from trailers. And it's not always the case, because I am on the internet like all the time, and there's constantly stuff getting leaked, and a good game will drop 3 to 6 trailers before it's released anyway, so it's kind of hard to dodge those. But for the most part, I do try to stay away from them. If I do watch them, I mainly watch maybe one of them, just to get an idea of when the game's coming out, and maybe some of the stuff that's going to be going on with the game. But for the most part, if I can, I try to stay away from it. All right, and today's YouTube spotlight shines on Prajata 360 HD, and he goes by Praj. That's how I know him. He's been a channel I've been following for quite some time, and I did want to shout him out today because he bought me Final Fantasy 13-2 last year. I actually won a giveaway on his channel, and part of the giveaway was me winning a copy of the game of my choice, and I had chosen that game. And I wanted to properly thank him for it last year, but I've just now gotten around to playing the game. You guys know that. So I did want to go ahead and shout him out and tell him thank you for that. He plays games on max settings, and he also uploads 1080p. So if you're looking for like the clearest, crispest visuals that you can find for a game, it's definitely going to be on his channel. The sub of the day is on the screen. Links are on the screen as well and in the description, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, if you even miss one dose, look, I know over the last couple of days I've been kind of mean to you guys and sending you to tropical islands and, sending you to the Arctic to get your tongue put on a big metal pole. I mean, I feel bad for that, man. So nothing's going to happen to you. If you miss a dose, nothing's going to happen to you. Nothing whatsoever. I mean, you're just going to have to live with the fact that you missed out on something special. Something that I spent, a couple of hours making for you. I mean, you're just going to have to, miss out on that. That's really just about it. I mean, nothing physical is going to happen to you. You're just going to have to live with the guilt of knowing that that I spent my time making you something that you didn't want to see, right? It's almost like if I gave you a Christmas present. I may get emotional here. If I gave you a Christmas present and then you just threw it back in my face, right? That's kind of what you're saying. Hold on. Let me wipe the tears away. That's kind of what you're saying to me when you miss a dose. But as far as physical harm, nothing's gonna happen. I promise.